You better work. It worked. It worked, everybody. I'm probably going to be sitting here alone now that it worked. Oh my goodness. Okay. So hello, Sean. It's like I'm telling you, this has been the road to madness today. Yay, Sean. Yes, MJ, I'm here. Let me just turn this down because it's like super, like, right. Okay, there we go. You just have to deal with me a little bit in the dark. Oh, hi, everybody. Hey, girl. Lori, good to see you. Emily. Hi. Coop. I'm loving Coop. Coop is Sean's dog, everybody, just so you know. So there you go. I'm just making sure that it is live. Okay, good. Cool. All right. The video froze again. Oh my goodness. Yeah, okay. If you can hear me, just let me know you can hear me because I'm just going to keep talking. Hopefully it will unfreeze. I have been trying to get this to work. Isn't frozen. Okay, good. All righty. Oh, hi, Bella. Welcome. Cruise Boston. Good to see you, babe. Thanks for being here. Be good to see you. So I have tried to start this video about 4 or 5 times. I even pulled in my new computer. So this is like the snazzy, like 8 gigs, no, 16 gigs, all this stuff that Graham and Bam and Boom and Bomb, and we're going to just do this. Okay, let me move this over because it's like, all right. So let's talk about my, I know, new computer, very snazzy, right? Well, hello, debt up to here. But the other one, I had an N problem. And I was sitting in a restaurant with a friend of mine, and I said, I've got a real N problem. And everybody looked over, and I went, the letter N fell off, people. Everybody can just back down. They were all like looking at me. Literally the letter N popped off. And this happened, I want to say this happened 2 weeks ago. Now, some of you know I was talking about a diagnosis and things that I was finding through my depression. Remember, I said I was so depressed, and I'd been really suffering for a while. And I went to the doctor, and she looked at me and she said, Tori, I really think that you might have ADHD. And she's worked with me for about 4 years now, so she knows me pretty well. And she said, I really want to refer you to a psychiatrist. And we have somebody that comes in the office, she'll do an intake. And I said, it's fine, I like the idea of the pipe and the laying back on the couch, but I didn't get any of that. I just got an office and a lady who's, kind of cool. So and the reason I wanted to share this with all of you and really come out is because I feel like there's such a stigma around learning and cognitive learning defects or learning challenges, as we say, mental illness. There's such a stigma around. And even today, I noticed it from a friend of mine. And I said, it was such a concept to me. And I think you guys will get this. I said, and just so you all know, I tried to take Photoshop 4 different times. Seriously, 4 different classes. Each time my brain would start to get a jumble and I would just stare at it and go, no, I can't do this. And I would walk out of the class. Meanwhile, I'd paid hundreds of dollars for it. Never could sit down and study it. And I have to tell you, the doctor I went to see, and when I did the intake with the psychiatrist, it was fascinating. She asked me some questions, and it started to dawn on me, everybody, that, I know, Cruise Boston's funny. She said, don't get too into it till we know this is really going. I'm like, okay, are we on? So, I was talking to the psychiatrist, and I have to tell you, I took an intake form. And, look, I'm not stupid, right? I'm not born last week. So I looked at it and I was like going, I'm saying yes an awful lot. So I slid it across the table to her, and she had read my stuff and they did my blood and all that crazy stuff. And she said, she asked me a couple questions and she said, how are you with with listening. And I said, it's really interesting. I can listen at a deep intuitive level, but if you try to get me to cognitively remember something, I will ask you 27 times. I'm the only person I know who can hold a piece of paper and lose it. And I'm not kidding, everybody. I had an assistant in LA. She's still a friend of mine. And she would say to me, okay, here's the project for today. And I go, okay, thank you. And I'd be talking, and within 2 minutes, it was lost. And I was telling the psychiatrist this, and she went, oh, wow. I said, yeah. She goes, you realize, of course, that's like textbook. I was like, no, didn't know. So we were talking about it, and I talked very openly about everything that was going on with me and how I had real trouble focusing, and it's progressively gotten worse. Well, I have to tell you all, I started to watch these videos on ADHD, and can I tell you something? It's completely antithetical to me. And some of you heard me talk about this on another video I did the other day, but I kind of talked about a lot of other things on that video. And I wanted to speak specifically, to this problem, this issue, and I wanted to come out to you guys as like, hey, I am a stand for healing this and for living with it. And I may never be able to heal it, right? Because it's a brain thing, right? And your brain is just wired differently. It's kind of like I was explaining to a friend of mine today, and this is the best way I can describe ADHD to all of you that don't have it. It's kind of like, imagine you live in a 3-story home, woo, right? But your middle story has no electricity. So in order to get anything done, you have to go up to the 3rd floor or down to the basement, or you have extension cords from the electricity on the 3rd floor and from the bottom into the main floor, okay? And half the time you're tripping over them and they don't work. That's what ADHD is like. So the memory is like, what was that? And so it's constantly, you're constantly like, I just want to say, okay. Yeah, Emily, it's interesting. I'm going to talk about that. It's funny. It's actually, I feel hugely relieved, because one of the things that I'm seeing in my life is that I have treated my ADHD consistently with depressants. Think about it. Alcohol. How many of us go, oh, I'm so uptight, and I'll take a Xanax, or I'll take a Vicodin or something. Vicodin. You know what I'm saying? What's the one? I used to call it vitamin V. It was. It'll come to me at like 3 a.m, I think. Anyway, the point is that you're taking sedatives. Well, that's the last thing you want to do for ADHD. You actually want to go the other way. Valium, thank you. God, I love this. All these little psychic things over here. Y'all are so psychic. So yeah, it's Valium. And, don't get me wrong. Those are great highs, right? But they are highs. And it's kind of like a fog high. So can you imagine treating non-focus with a drug that causes you to not focus? So it just gets worse and worse, right? So what I'm realizing is how rampant this condition is. And I'm also realizing why they don't want to give out controlled substances for it. And this is kind of this was really shocking to me. And I'll look at the comments in a second, when I've been very nervous, I'm not going to pull punches. I've been very nervous about the idea of taking a controlled substance. I was kind of putting it off. And I was shocked. I almost said veterinarian. The psychiatrist, not veterinarian. The psychiatrist said to me, I just want you to know. I said, what is the diagnosis? And she said, well, you have severe chronic depression, and you definitely have ADHD. And based on what you've said, you've had it your whole life. And I have to tell you, there's that moment when you go, no, really? You kind of, for me, it was that moment when that's not right? Like, that's not me. Is it somebody down the hall you're talking about? Because it really is something that made me recognize that And by the way, I started taking the meds, but I want to tell you, I didn't take the meds in time because the thing that I did do, guys, I ordered this brand new computer when the N key fell off of my other computer, not thinking that maybe I could get it fixed. So instead, I just buy a new computer. Well, that's very ADHD, I found out, where you just go, I'm just going to buy a new one. You know, like it just doesn't occur to me, right? It hadn't, that maybe I could get that fixed. It was like, you know, I think I shared this months and months ago with some of you. You might remember, some of you have been with me that long. When I didn't like my kitchen, I wanted to sell my house. And then it occurred to me, oh, I could fix my kitchen. So these are things that immediately, like, I'd rather do the shortcut, the immediate quick fix. I don't want to do the work because I'm afraid of the amount of work, and I'm afraid of losing myself in that moment. I just want to kind of look over and see, it's about quality of life versus fear of addiction, and it's truly essential. You know, it's interesting, Lori, thank you for saying that. And I want to share about that. Because Lori was just mentioning, everybody, that it's, you know, the fear of addiction versus your life quality. Well, I have to tell you, and this is the first time in my life, for the first time in my life, I started taking the medication just as it was written. Not that I wouldn't when, you know, but I did. And I was really afraid because people always joked with me about Adderall. And they always said, oh, wait till you go on this, you'll clean the whole house, you'll be high, you'll be this. That's not what happened to me. I take it now. Like, I've been on it for 10 days. I get up in the morning and I go, wow, I had a really good night's sleep. I sleep well. I get up in the morning, I eat breakfast, I take my medication, and I'm focused, and I work, and I'm not high. You know, and it's my feeling about Vicodin, right? If you hurt yourself or you go in for surgery and they give you strong meds, you'll take the meds, at least for me, and you get a little buzzy. But truth is, it takes away the pain. But if you take Vicodin and you're not in pain, you get high. And so what disappointed me was Adderall doesn't really do anything but make me able to be normal. And I was sharing with a very dear friend of mine. It's been a challenging week because it's funny when you recognize that you have suffered from something for so long and nobody caught it. Like, literally nobody caught this. Like, and I think now, and I shared stories with all of you, like, you know, when I was growing up, my mom just wrote my papers because she couldn't stand that I was struggling. But you see, that was a symptom. That was a symptom of a bigger problem. She would yell at me and tell me I had no command of the language. But you see, now with all we're learning about ADHD, we're really learning that this is something that is really, our brain is wired differently. So it's almost like we're salmon and we swim upstream while everybody's just taking the easy road and going on their boats. We're swimming against the current, and it's exhausting. It's so exhausting. And I just have to tell you all, I've always kind of suspected it. Like, I always kind of thought, I wonder if that's me, because I would spend days, and seriously, it was a joke with me and my friends. Oh, look, a puppy. I mean, I would be sitting there on one subject, and you guys have seen me do it, blah, 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 blah. And my mind can go from this subject to this subject, this subject. And somehow I've learned to bring it all home. Like, I can bring it all together. But what I'm recognizing is that when I, you know, as I'm dealing with this and I'm treating the issue, I'm really learning about myself in a way I never had. First of all, I never knew what normal felt like. I never knew that you could get up in the morning and you could actually sit down and work at something and just do it, not struggle. Like, the struggle of even, like, and bear with me, but even making a phone call to my accountant, I could put that off for weeks for no reason. Like, it's a phone call, but it would just give me anxiety. And anything like that was always getting put off. And, you know, I didn't know how to prioritize. I've never known how to prioritize. I've always gone, this is urgent, this is urgent, this is urgent. And what happens is everything becomes urgent, and therefore nothing gets done. And I'm like going, oh, like, you know, really learning to prioritize, like, if the brakes aren't working on your car, that will be more important than watering your lawn. But to me, everything had the same level of importance, and everything was urgent, everything was frantic. And at the end of the day, hi, Allie. At the end of the day, it was very difficult. And what's really interesting is that, you know, as I'm kind of coming into like a recognition of, wow, I didn't know, like, seriously, I did not know that some of you can go to a job and actually focus on the work you're doing. Like, that to me is like, I could never understand going to a job, because I have had in the past, I had about a 20-minute focus like window. That's it. After that, it's like, okay. But here's the interesting thing. One of the things with this and my condition was that when I had a deadline and I knew it had to be in 17 hours, I literally could work 17 hours straight and write really good stuff and turn it in. I was like, okay, I did that. And I remember I'd sat up all night and I was working on something. And the next morning, my assistant came in and I was still sitting, same clothes, same outfit, same place. And I had gotten up to get water, go to the bathroom, whatever. And she walked in and she said, have you been sitting here all night? I said, yeah. She said, I've never known you to sit more than 20 minutes. I said, well, I had a deadline. And she looked at it, she said, well, let's see. Well, it was really good because I had really, it had been important to me and I had focused. So there are a lot of things I'm learning. Like, one of the things that I said to a friend of mine today, I went, wow, you know, it's amazing what gets done when you focus on something. And she joked and said, yeah, that's something, isn't it? And I go, but you know what? It sounds crazy to anybody else, but people who have had this or have suffered from this, you know, it's, yeah, I can handle, let me tell you something. I can handle snakes, fire, earthquakes, but when it comes to, I have to call the dentist, I literally would freeze. And so a lot of the stuff, okay, which is very interesting, a lot of the discipline that you have to learn when you have ADHD, which, you know, I'm studying it. I'm studying what I need to know. And a lot of the discipline is stuff that I teach already, which is really funny. And so when I have this little pill that makes that it's actually speed, you guys, but what it does is it speeds up and puts me at a normal rate of consciousness, whereas it wasn't connecting. So it's something about the norepinephrine, pideline, and the serotonin and these inhibitors. And I'm sure there's about 10 of you that are about 20 times smarter than me on here. But the point is that these things don't mate. And when they don't meet, you don't get traction. And when you don't get traction, what do people do? They go, oh, I'm not getting it. I need to relax. I need to just have a drink. I need to lay down. All the things I shouldn't have been doing. But you know what? I didn't know, right? Who knew? Like, and you know, I can look back and go, gosh, you know, my family really didn't pay attention. And there's a sadness in that. I'm not going to like pretend there isn't a sadness. There's definitely a sadness that, you know, I grew up in an alcoholic family. Nobody noticed. Nobody paid attention to me. And yet, ironically, with ADHD, your whole life is about you. You can't focus on other people. You can't, but also, they say there's two basic things. One can be a head injury that brings it on. And there's another one that, you know, you really get it inherited. And I can honestly say, I think it has a lot to do with family of origin stuff. I know the D word, right? Okay, let me just see. Cynthia just said, is it possible that all the readings you do takes away your energy and concentration you need for yourself? You know, it's interesting, Cynthia. They actually lately, since I've been doing this, I find them to be very relaxing. And I find that I'm enjoying in the readings, I'm enjoying, because I do a different type of reading. I'm not doing, oh, you're going to meet a, you know, tall, dark stranger. A lot of times people come to me for a reading because check this out. There's a synapse. There's something not clicking in their life, and they know that there's one thing they're missing, and what is it? They're unhappy for one reason or another. And in a 30-minute or hour-long reading, we zero in on what it is, because I understand those bridges. Because energetically, I understand energetic gaps. Like, if we're here and have to get here, how do we get there? Well, I've spent my life creating those bridges intuitively. So now that my entire being is like doing it, it's like this amazing alignment of, I think my writing's getting stronger, my work is getting stronger, I'm able to focus more, and I'm able to be of service to other people in a whole new way. So it's very interesting. You're bringing something up for me, Cruz Boston. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Let me see. Yeah, right. You're a good motivator, but you aren't. I wish I could take something for my fibro fog. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Emotional and physical trauma contributes to this issue of focus. Mary said that. And I think that's very true, by the way. That's it. Our brain doesn't make dopamine, and that's why we're prone to depression. It's something about, Brittany, if I remember correctly, yeah, it's a pretty important organ. Yeah, woman, that's a good point. There is something, though, about we release dopamine, but our uptake takes it in too quickly. And so what inhibitors do is we release dopamine, and it's allowed to stay in our brain longer so that we can use it. So it kind of actually helps it release. Yeah, you know, I want to say to all of you that I think, well, first of all, I think there's a general fog going on in this world, but, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. Seasonal depression. That's a big one too. You know, I had it when I lived in New York City. And when I moved to California, it went away for a little while, and then it came back. And I've had an interesting journey because I've had Hashimoto's disease, which is a thyroid condition. It's kind of like Pac-Man in your brain, right? Because your thyroid is working and it sends out the hormone, and those little Pac-Mans go and eat up all the hormones, so you have no thyroid hormone. So I was taking synthetic thyroid medicine, and the minute I took it, I was better. Then so it's always been, I've always had an inability to concentrate for long periods of time. And, you know, I can look back now and recognize, you know, that I was very blessed in that I didn't have a job. I think if I went to a job every day, I think if I had pursued something like that, I would have caught this sooner, because I think I would have been fired from a lot more jobs. Because I think I had like 3 or 4 jobs, and maybe, you know, people would always want me to work with them, and I'd go work with them, and then it would be like, I couldn't come in till 10:30. I just can't, you know, but I'd come in at 10:30, I'd work for an hour and a half, I'd get more done in that time than most people get done in 8 hours. And then I go, okay, I'm done, I have to go. They'd be like, what? I'd be like, I just can't focus anymore. And so, you know, over time, those jobs went away. Now, the bigger jobs like networks and things like that, I can look now and see that I had hired people that had an ability, had a strong ability to focus, and that was kind of my strength. I didn't. So it was really a very interesting thing. Okay, my daughter has, okay, and all the time she's sad, depression. You know, I'll tell you something. Allie just said her daughter has ADHD. The thing about it is that there are some really wonderful videos on YouTube. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I listen to some doctors, but at a certain point I'm watching a talking head and they're going like this. And like, I can't, again, I'd rather watch people that have it, that have learned about themselves, that have found ways of dealing with their lives. Because at the end of the day, some doctor can only give you what they are prescribing, but only another ADHD can really speak to me. It's like an alcoholic. we see each other and we can talk to each other because we know that pain. And it's the same thing with ADHD. And I think the more we come out as to what's really bothering us, and by the way, loneliness, depression, those are things we should be talking about. You know, being profoundly lonely, you know, we have to be willing to go to that depth of profound loneliness in order to find the freedom of, for me, it's been my faith. Now, that doesn't mean I go and I'm not a church person, but with my ADHD, I can barely focus there. Can you imagine? When I went to church as a kid, I would be sitting there fidgeting the whole time. I couldn't hear anything the pastor said. I'd be like, and finally, because my mother just sent me, yeah, you can take a pole cruise, Boston, go ahead. My mother and father would just send me to church. They didn't go. See, they sent me with friends. So I was the sucker sitting there and like, because I couldn't focus. Like literally I'd be like, and now I can look back and see that my dad would have days that he would lose days. And my mother obviously was an alcoholic, and I feel very, very, very bad. She never found her way home in the sense of finding her way out. They say 8 out of 10 alcoholics actually never get recovery. So the number may have gone down now, but, you know, be grateful if you have some recovery. You know, I'm feeling now that ADHD isn't the worst thing that can happen in someone's life. You know, my dad had his leg shot up in the war and he limped my whole life. And the reality is that he had pain. Listen, we all have something, you know, and if this is what I've got and I have to take a substance to make myself behave normally, I'm now willing to really look at what's going on in my life. I'm going to see the little thing Cruz Boston did because she's so cool. Type 1 if you take meds, 2, and type 2 if you wait it out to see if it gets better for a headache. Okay, so some people, thank you, Emily. Good for you. 36 years, holy crapola. That's like another person. You have another person. Let's see, what? Explore the depth of loneliness. Scott Peck would agree. Yeah, I think that here's the thing about loneliness, and I'm just going to share with all of you when you're ready to, with the 1s and 2s. It looks like we're pretty much half and half. Thing about loneliness, and if you will allow me, the thing about profound loneliness is that the truth is when you recognize you can only have faith once you have been to the bottom. Once you recognize the depth of your despair. And if I can ask you all, just to invite you all right now, I want you to just sink into your body and just really allow yourself to experience, like it's almost like a heart pain, that pain of loneliness, like what it's really like to feel that nobody gets you, to feel that, you know, sometimes it's more exciting to watch a Hallmark movie than it is to try to go out or try to reach out because the loneliness has taken a bigger step. In other words, for me with the ADHD, it's been easier to just go forget it. So when you're in that place, you know, when you're in that place of the depth of that loneliness, only there, it's the dark night of the soul. And it's like, only then, I'm going to show you this one card I was thinking of, only then can we really come to a place of possibility, because it's only when I'm completely lost that I can be found. See, I think the thing is we spend so much time resisting, we never really find our solution. And so when I work with people and I am sitting with them, you know, and even in a session, you know, there's something so profound about energetically and spiritually just sitting there and being with you. And I was working with somebody recently. I said, let's just be in that sadness. And she said, oh, I've been trying to get rid of it my whole life. And I said, don't. Let's find out who it is. Let's love on it. Let's just love on it. Let's be with it. And we sat with it, and we sat with it, and we found the sadness. And then we were able to get that we weren't alone, we were together. And I think that's the beauty of this. What did Brittany say? Well, I think that, I think, Cynthia, one of the things that I want to say is that it is easy for us later to go, well, nobody's hurting you, and I get what you're saying. However, what I feel is that, why don't we just be with it and not try to fix it? Just accept that it's there. I'm looking for a particular card to show you, and not try to explain it away, not try to make it mean something other than it means. Not even, and you know what I want to say? Not even defining it. Just going, okay, I'm lonely right now. I'm profoundly sad. I'm feeling that, you know? And it's really interesting. I got very triggered today. I found the card. I got very triggered today, and it was this woman came on and you know, I try to respond to people. But honestly, if someone is really just too much or triggers me, I just go, okay, no, I can't do this. But I really tried, because I had said in one of my videos, and y'all know how I am, I go, oh, that person's crazy, you know, or that's cray cray. Well, her comment to me was that people who are mentally ill, you know, that might really insult them. And I said to her, you know, did it insult you? But she couldn't respond to that. Instead, she tried to shame me for having said it. And she said, well, that's not the point. You're inappropriate and you shouldn't do. And she went on in this litany. And I just said, it's very interesting how many people want to stand up for someone else, but they won't stand up for themselves. They won't tell their truth. They'll hide behind righteousness, but not tell you what's really going on with them. They won't say to you, I feel lonely. They won't say, I feel sad. They'll just try to shame you into the behavior they think will help their world look better. And that's not how it works. You know, it's just not how it works. So what I did was I just said, you know, because she said something about how I wasn't very intelligent because only intelligent people can admit they're wrong. And I just said to her, you know, my father used to say when I was growing up, he'd say, in the battle of the wits, consider yourself unarmed if you try to go up against my daughter. Which is kind of true. I used to have a really mean streak. I still do. I still give people hand signals if I don't like how they're driving, but I kind of correct it pretty quickly. But I do the best I can. I'm a human being. But I said to her, you know, you really shouldn't call yourself unintelligent just because you are not understanding the conversation. And she just went off, right? And I, you know, I'm going to, this, you're that. And I just, you know, I just ended it and just blocked her. And the reason I did is not because she's a bad person or what have you, but because, you see, whenever someone tries to push their agenda on me, you're going to be like, where'd Tori go? I'm gone. I'm just gone. And I've always been that way. And, you know, that's why I have to be me. If I say crazy and it offends somebody, well, you know what? They're going to just hit unsubscribe. They're just, and here's the funny thing. Most of the people who are complaining aren't even subscribed to my channel. They just want to dive bomb someone and come in and just insult you. And it's kind of like, I've gotten to a point, especially in these last 2 weeks, where it's like, I want to support all of you. I want to support the people that are really here and a stand for making changes in their life and growing and being better and feeling better. And so whatever that looks like for you, I just feel like, yeah, the I statements. You know, that's the thing. Thank you for saying that, Betsy. You know, I statements are great. And I think a lot of people really, somewhere along the line, we have forgotten that. Hey, Chris. Richard, mean streak you. You know what it is? I happen to be, and this is actually, Richard, you know where I get really, really into upset. And this is a trigger. I very much protect the underdog. And if I feel that someone is viciously attacking another person, I'm going to protect them. And it's just funny. That's just the way I am. And it's kind of like with the Super Bowl too. Like I have my team that I like always bet on and win. But if the other team is kind of losing, I'll start rooting for them because underdog, I want to help them. But I think that what happens is my big trigger is senior abuse. If I see people abusing seniors, there could be snakes, fire, earthquakes. I'm going for the jugular because I don't tolerate that. I don't tolerate that behavior. I just can't. It's something in me that makes me go, I'm fighting to the bitter end. And every single one of us has I'm fighting to the bitter end on something. And it's kind of, for me, it's not so much that I'll fight that person, but I will bring you down if you try to hurt someone or abuse someone. Like my dad was severely abused by this dentist. And I think I've told the story already, but when my dad died, I really feel his teeth really had a big effect on his death. And I felt like, because your teeth, man, that's like everything that's germy is there. Okay. So when I felt this dentist was part of his demise, and I found out that this dentist had done this to dozens and dozens and dozens of senior citizens, shamed them, did their work wrong, made them feel bad. He put in all these, what do you call them? The permanent things. I'm sorry, I can't think of it right now, but he put in these things and it was like they were wrong. And I was furious when I saw he did that. My dad's like, it's okay. I can live with it. And I looked at my dad and I said, what's it going to cost to fix it? Because the guy said, I could do it for $6,000, right? My dad said, well, it's going to be $18,000 to fix. And I go, I don't give a crap. I don't care if it's $1 million. I don't care if you die the day it's done. We're fixing it. And I'm paying to get it fixed, and I'm going after that doctor. Oh, no, please don't. I go, listen to me. Fair is fair. No one is going to take advantage of you, and no one's going to take advantage of all of these people. Well, I did win the case, long story short. The guy was run out of New York, but then I found out he opened a practice in Jersey. Can't help that. But he had dozens of cases, like dozens. I want to say at least 100 people, all seniors, all abused by this guy. I just went nuts. And so, so when you talk about what gets me going, those are the kinds of things that get me going. If somebody calls something crazy, I'm not going to try to fix your behavior. We can't legislate thoughts, people. People want to just fix your thoughts. And it's like, I don't think my thoughts are wrong. I have my own thoughts. I think I'll say that's crazy if I think something's crazy. Why do we have to be so freaking politically correct? Why do we have to make everyone on earth happy? You know what? We need a little bit of toughness. We need to know that life is not simple. If it's too simple, you're sitting in a chair in an institution, because then it's simple. Really. Pat, you're so funny. Yeah, that's till Catastrophe, injured by a chiropractor. Oh, don't start with me on that. I don't go anymore, but that's how the child abuse and senior abuse make me sick. It's not worth it unless someone's actually being hurt. Yeah, exactly. They put in, it's not the dentures, it's the implants. Yeah, I won that case. I knocked that guy right down to the ground. And timing and everything, because he had so many dozens of cases. And it was quite a story, which I'll tell another time. But, the point is that I wasn't going to let go. I wasn't going to let go no matter what. And I was the one person they tried to settle with because, I was living in California and I had to fly to New York for the case. And so they figured they could wear me down. And I said to the lawyer, you tell him I got so many frequent flyer miles, I don't mind To me, New York, LA means nothing. I can get off the plane, I can get on a plane. You tell them I'm going to be there until I win, and I'm not giving up. And it just so happened that it worked out that way, where they were trying to bluff me one day. And I'll tell the story. But anyway, I was standing in court, and my dad had died. My father had died about 2 months prior, and I had to go back to New York. It was really hard to go back and forth, but I did. And I got this really cool judge the third time in the courtroom. And this was right after 9/11, you guys. It was like 4 months after 9/11. So I had on my American flag scarf, and the lawyer came over to me and said, "Just look really mean." I go, "You told them I'm an impossible biatch, right?" And he goes, "Mm-hmm." I go, "Good." And I just smiled, and it was really funny. He goes into the chambers, and they're like, because the judge called them into chambers first to try and settle it. And they were like, "Well, we'll give her, we'll give her this, we'll give her that." And finally they brought me in, and the judge said, "Well, they're willing to offer you X amount." And I said, "Listen, that I want to let you know, Your Honor, that it cost me what they're offering me to pay the dentist who fixed my dad's teeth, because I sent him to that dentist 2 or 3 times a week for 20 weeks before he died. It was $18,000, $20,000, right, to fix my dad's teeth. He died with his teeth fixed. And it was a promise I made to my father, because no matter what, I wasn't going to let anybody take someone's dignity. And that is really important to me. And I feel that way about my pets too. Like I always say to them, "Listen, I don't want you to lose your dignity, and I will take you out if need be, And anyway, so I went into the chamber, and I said, "What they're offering me, the lawyer's going to get half. Then the dentist is going to get all of that. Plus I have to now come out of pocket $10,000. And the other side said, "Well, we're not giving any more. We're not doing." I said, and the judge said, "Well, Ms. Hartman, what would you like to do?" And I said, "Let's go to trial." And everybody looked at me, and the judge said, "Well, that's funny. We have an open court right upstairs." And he looked at the other side. He said, "She wants to go to court, and I'm going to warn all of you, if she does, she's going to get probably 4 times what you're offering." So they doubled the offer. It paid for that, and it allowed me to lay on the couch for a year and be depressed. So there you go. And it also came with one other stipulation, because what happened was they offered me a few thousand more, and I said, "Listen," and then they wanted me to sign off that I wasn't going to disclose or whatever. And I said, as long as he never practices in New York State again, I will sign off to that. And the judge agreed to that, and he sent it over to the medical court, and then it kind of like wound up where he lost his license in New York. So that's what happened. But it was a long, long story. And Black Rose, what's going on, babe? Asking for a surgical biopsy. What? Trying to find a good surgeon. Huh. So Black Rose 11, what I want to say to you is that a biopsy, surgical biopsy, yeah, you need to get that. And by the way, I really still don't feel anything's wrong. I know everybody's going to go, "Don't give her," and that's not medical advice. It's just my hunch, right? We're not going to call it what it is. It's a hunch. But I do feel that there is something you need to handle right away. So I would like you to go to see it doesn't matter, because a surgical biopsy is a biopsy. It's not the surgery. So it's like taking something to test it. So I just want to share with you that I don't know if you guys can hear me. Okay, people are leaving. All right, I think I'm out. So I will end the stream.